You don't get many finer margins in championship runs. It's just 2 championship points in it from the driver who has been second for the last 2 seasons and a 3-time champion looking for a 4th. We head to what is the centre of racing, or the world centre of racing, it has to be said. This is Daytona Beach, the Daytona International Speedway. Anything is possible in a championship like this, at a track like this. Welcome everybody to your Grand Prix Legends Lotus 49s on this, a Saturday afternoon, to be sure of great racing action. My name's Jake Sperry. Alongside me for the ride today is Joey Atterbury. Christian Deploy is in the director's chair. He's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But to Daytona, a circuit which, when January rolls around, no races happen except at here. You've got to look around and say, here right now in the summer, this is what we call a high-speed thrill ride. Let's get an understanding of this with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 corners on the regular road circuit and 14 on the NASCAR version, both spread amongst 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kinked entry of Turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year.
You draw this circuit on paper, it's a very easy circuit to the eye to go and look at, but races aren't raced on paper, Joey. They are raced on track, and this as a circuit is the most deceptively difficult place.
It is incredibly fast, but you have to hit every single marker when you're out here. 12 turns by iRacing standards, and they're a little bit mixed up through the infield, but huge brake markers in turn 1, turn 3, turn 5, and also turn number 6, which is the final horseshoe coming out onto the oval section, NASCAR 2 over there. But it is all about the power down today. Remember, we are in those Lotus 49s, drafting, also the top speed, that Le Mans chicane. You got to be able to get slowed down and through it, because that top speed coming through the tri-oval is going to win you the race.
It absolutely will, and this race, I think, might be one of the most important that this season has. Of course, when you talk about Daytona, it is a battleground. It always has been, it always will be. But let's talk championship standings, because this is where the battleground is being fought. Togo Hisada is there on top at the moment. With the drop rounds applied, that gap is just 2 championship points as things stand over Jorge Nieva. You've got Nicola Cocchi at 30 points back, still very much in the championship effort, and could vault up the order if there are issues today with the top 2 in this championship effort. It's then a great scrap there for 4th position between Connor Coleman, Seb Tixier, Kevin Verbruggen, and Marco Antonio Lopez, all of them split by 5 points, with David Rossi in 8th, Matthew Maudsley finding himself in 9th, and he's got a tough battle against Robert Plumley, who's 1 point back behind him in 10th. Joey, let's talk F2 standings, because that has been a little bit more of an interesting place to watch.
We've got a few scraps here, including for the top spot. You see it tied right now between Kurt Clapper and Jonathan Jourdain. But then the next scrap, it's only, call it about a handful of points separating third through fifth place. Thomas Willershausen, John Van Dorn, Jem Matson, and throw in Roberto Pangrazzi as well because he's only 8 points behind that pair right in front of him. Then a little bit of a gap. Jan Steffen, Alan Graham, Tomas Tuba, and Tobias Harnvey all included in the top 10 as well.
Yep, so Clapper versus Jourdain, I think is going to be the big race to watch out in F2, so keep that in mind as that goes on forward. The Cup of Nations is in the hands of Spain, 41 points clear of Japan right now, with Singapore a further 9 points adrift. United Kingdom then 5 points back of that as the United States find themselves in 5th position. Italy house themselves in 6th, just ahead of the Netherlands, and then it is Sweden in 8th position, almost 100 points back of that, with Germany and Australia giving it a good battle, 9th and 10th positions. But if it is your first time here with us on the Global Sim Racing channel watching the Grand Prix Legends Lotus 49s, Joey, what do we have in store today?
Let's see what round we're at here at Daytona International Speedway. We are going to be doing that 24-lap race for round number 10 of 12. An open setup, and I think the biggest thing that we're going to be talking about, obviously, a top speed. So let's see what gearing, if there's any gearing changes between the cars, and if we're going to see any of that, especially coming out of the corners. No spare car, so if you pick up any damage, well, you got to live with it. Drive-through penalty at 17 incident points and a disqualification at 25 incident points. There's lots of runoff here at Daytona, so you can rack those incident points up, but I think what I'm scared about is those brake zones, Jake, because if you miss a brake marker and you make contact with somebody else, it's going to be disaster.
And this is one of the cars with one of the longest braking zones out there over the course of a race. So when you hit the brakes, if you got it wrong slightly, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion. You can see it happening, and you'll find yourself in a bit of trouble. Currently in the throes of qualifying, 1:40 left to go. This is the second of the 2 qualifying laps available for Jorge Nieva. They have 8 minutes to set that time, dropping underneath, though, the apron. That's not going to be an improvement, and as such, Jorge Nieva can only get 5th fastest at best as far as qualifying goes. We've got drivers like Leo Sequeiro, who's just finished his opening lap, or in fact it'll be his only lap, and Leo Sequeiro's just gone 3rd fastest.
That is a fantastic lap for Leo. I'm not too surprised, though, wearing that number 6 board, and with only about a minute left here in qualifying, we're watching Shinsuke Tashima. Now, he's already completed the 3rd lap, so I think that he's just kind of out there getting some extra pace, extra practice. See about this brake marker going into that Le Mans chicane.
Yeah, P12 as things stand at the moment. Kurt Clapper just in front of him in 11th, the F2 Championship leader, with a little bit of, I would say, a gap to play with here today in terms of what he's looking. You've also got Jordi Oliva Figueira out there, who is trying to put his best foot forward in terms of his championship. Jonathan Jourdain in 14th as well, so the F2 Championship going to be very close, and Jordi finds out what happens there, Joey, when you drop it off the apron on what is such high banking.
We might actually see that in the race because there's going to be so many drafting battles. We typically see it over at the Monza Combined, but with how high speed Daytona is going to be, we'll see drivers probably tempt fate on the apron, because all the way up top, remember, it's the longer way around there.
Well, talking about fate, we've just finished qualifying, and now we'll be over towards those 24 laps of racing. The grid stacks up as follows. It is the Tensai of this series. Togo Hesada, who is on pole position, with Nicola Cocchi alongside for company. Leo Sequeiro and Sebastian Tixier house themselves on row 2, with Kevin Verbruchen in 5th and Jorge Nieva with work to do in 6th position. It's then Marco Antonio Lopez, who finds himself in 7th, with Gary Ho in 8th. Roberto Pangrazzi, what a time by him in P9, the number 30 machine there. Connor Tolman is alongside for company in 10th.
Then in 11th, we've got Kurt Clapper. Shinsuke Tashima lined up there in 12th, with Hannah Fechner in 13th. Jonathan Jourdain in 15th, with David Rossi right here to start row number 8, and Michael Grissinger in 16th next to him. Bjorn Ackerman starting 17th, Robert Plumley 18th, Maudsley in 19th, and Alan Graham in 20th.
There's 31 drivers here today, so Tobias Hanvey will be on row 11 with David Muse. It then follows Andres Bruno and Thomas Tuba there in 24th position. There is Jordi Oliva Figuera in 25th, along with Christopher Sissons in 26th position. He was the last driver to set a time, leading Jason Clapper, Gerard Boldu, Alexandre Tremblay, Thomas Willershausen there in 30th position, and finally Jem Matzan making up the 31. Now, this is going to be something rather unique. We've got a standing start here at Daytona. We don't often get to see this, so those up on the high side of the banking are going to try and drop down the banking, gain that little bit of an advantage. It's very much like watching 1v1s out on the cycling velodrome. It's got that sort of appeal to it. So advantage to those on the inside of the circuit to get the launch that they want. So keep an eye out on those starts, because we could have some dramas here with a standing start up on the banking. It goes all the way back then to Thomas Willershausen and Jem Matzan right back, which is a little bit flatter for those further back. It's got a little bit more banking up towards the top. So for Nicola Cocchi, for example, it's going to be troublesome. Lights on, lights out. Let's get going for 24 laps. And Togo Hesada does not get off away perfectly, but look at Tixier's start as he now looks to drive. They're going to be 3 wide into turn 1. He's stuck on the outside. Hesada can't go. Nicola Cocchi dives in deep and sweeps around the outside of the Japanese driver and takes the race lead, heading to the International Horseshoe. Oh no, he's gone!
Yeah, he spun it around on the cold tires. He's holding the brakes. Hopefully nobody collects him. You see the number 2 car finally get going. He's going to be buried about 3/4 of the way through the field here. So I think it's Hesada out front, Tixier in second, and then everybody else giving chase.
He relaxed for half a second, and just like that, the car went around. What a start by Nieva. He's up, on for the race lead. Gap has to be made there. Tixier with contact with Hesada, and they're just behind. There was almost more contact going through that section. I think it was Gary Ho that was there, up there, looking for the race lead. He had a little bit of something to say about it as he went through, but Tixier now leads. It's Nieva in second, and Togo Hesada back now in third. We were talking about it. It was first and sixth out there for Hesada and Nieva, and it's taken one infield section for Nieva to jump ahead.
It's just been a huge pickup for Nieva as well as Tixier playing this first lap to a T, and now we're seeing the draft games be played down to the Le Mans chicane. You gotta hit your brake marker. Remember, we've seen so many of these cars already go off. Looks like the first half of the field nice and tidy.
Yeah, it was Leo Sequeiro who had a little bit of contact, not Gary Ho, who was just waiting there a little bit further back. Right now, we talk about the front of the field. It's 4 who are clear at the front. It's then Connor Tolman trying to hold on in that 5th position with Gary Ho and Kevin Verbruggen and Marco Antonio Lopez. Shunsuke Toshima chasing down. Here goes the look then for the race lead as Sebastian Tixier sees behind him that Togo Hesada is trying to line up his championship rival in Jorge Nieva for that move, and he can't quite get there just yet going on to lap 2. This is going to be a tall order style of race where every lap you're going to have to find the focus into the International Horseshoe, and now the short shoot run going over towards the West Horseshoe. I've just seen a car off the road at the International Horseshoe, and that's Shunsuke Toshima. Jorge Nieva finding the way through on Sebastian Tixier, who drops 2 places back into 3rd.
I don't know what happened. I can only think of maybe a misshift on the upshift for Tixier, and now he snags back 2nd place already from Togo Hesada. Togo's going to give it up. He's not going to fight going into this turn 6 left-hander here. Jorge Nieva almost into the tires right in front of him, so Tixier is now going to take advantage. I talked about the brake markers. While our leader, he missed one there in 6th.
Yeah, he might have just missed a gear. It was that sort of thing. He was idling up in the high revs, couldn't quite get it to chunk his way into gear, so that was trouble. Nieva now trying to think, can I get by Tixier here with Hesada, with Sequeira? Look at what it's done. It's brought the group close together. Behind that, Connor Tolman's just moved up into 4th position, diving into the Le Mans chicane. So Nieva giving that run, giving that chase. We've now got 7 up at the front of this field, 6 at the front of this field, who could, at any given point in time, fight for 3 spots on the podium and 1 victory overall. Here goes Togo.
chunking, and I think Togo's actually being patient. He lifted off the gas to allow Nieva to kind of slipstream right there in front of him. So side by side between Tixier and Nieva. Tixier's got the inside, and once again, just really, really deep on the brakes, defends the inside line. But I just think that at Daytona, we're going to see more of a Monza-like race that as long as the drivers can stay in touch through the infield, it is going to be the draft game.
Well, it is one of these circuits which does produce this style of racing where everyone's got to be there together. It's getting dicey as well in the middle of the pack as well as Nieva continues on his charge out there at the moment. So it's all about who's got what, who's going to find what.
Noticing also Nicola Kocky, remember off the initial start of the race at the exit of turn number 1 through the S's there, it was that number 2 car of Nicola Kocky that went spinning off to the inside. He has recovered. He finds himself in 7th place, and he's going to try to hunt down our leaders.
But he's going to try and hunt, and so too on the hunt then is Togo Hesada, who is trying to throw himself forward past Jorge Nieva. You've got Sequeira, you've got Tolman, and then Marco Antonio Lopez, I think, struggling through that infield section to keep himself in any form of range as things stand at the moment. On the brakes they go, in towards the Le Mans chicane once again, and straight on goes Connor Tolman. He overshot the brakes, and now he'll have to serve the slowdown.
So unfortunate. Connor had a really good first few laps here, but I don't think it's over. I don't think it's really the end of the race right now. Just learn from that and know that you can't take it that deep into the brakes next time.
Yeah, you've got to be so alert to where your braking markers is, especially at one of the most important sections of circuit out there. So that, I think, is very telling at this point. On the brakes they go once again. In through the opening section, Sebastian Tixier with the fastest lap of the race. Marco Antonio Lopez now trying to get on the back here of Connor Tolman for position. Then you've got the recovering Nicola Kocky trying to get through. He's just made the pass from Bjorn Ackermann, who has just jumped up into 7th place. So Nicola Kocky here is desperate to try and stay with this group if he at all possibly can. He might need to work with Bjorn Ackermann here as Unicorn Power needs to be at 100%.
Sometimes it's that peloton, right, in the draft game, that as long as the cars are equal pace through the infield, okay, well, don't argue, don't fight with your competitor through there. Use it kind of as a little bit of a, we're not net gaining any time, and then once you're out onto that oval, do the peloton where you can draft by somebody and actually leapfrog up, take steps towards that front group. I think that's the smart play.
Well, talking of smart plays, Jason Clapper right now having an almighty race. He is up into 10th place from starting 27th. He's gained 17 places in 3.5 laps worth of running. You've now got this group once again happy to sit in through the chicane and go forward. Now, fuel is going to be a really important matter because Kevin Verbruggen just before the start of the race said the base setup does not house enough fuel on its own. You need at least 50 litres of fuel to get yourself over the line and through. You burn more fuel by being at the front of the group like Sebastian Tixier, or, for example, if you're going to go out and try and make a move like Togo Hesada is, and look at this, 1, 2 and 3, going 3 wide through the tri-oval. Nieva backs out. Seb Tixier does not want to relinquish that race leading position.
You see Hesada just kind of left out to dry on the outside right there. Now that can be a thing at Daytona, that if you take the really arcing line into turn number 1, if you don't have enough front end grip, it can be really difficult to get the car all the way down to apex. And now you see Togo kind of slide a little bit wide there at the turn 3 apex as well, but is able to put the power down. So it all just kind of net gains out to 0. It's still Tixier out front, Nieva in 2nd, Hesada giving chase in 3rd, Leo Sequeiro in 4th.
Well, that was all a concentration check going through that section of road because of the fact that you had Togo Hesada over the curves out of turn 2, the same place where Nicola Kocky had the issues. Jason Clapper pulling away, and he's through now on Shunsuke Tashima and up into 9th position, but that might be as far as he goes over the course of this race, Joey, because he's got 5 seconds to claw down Bjorn Ackermann.
And Ackermann's last lap time of 144.8, Jason Clapper 144.9. Now Jason did have to make a pass, but seems like they're pretty evenly paced, and yeah, that's going to be a tough hill to climb as our leader's going down the back straightaway.
And into that Le Mans chicane once more, a naming deal between the two circuits as they go on forward. I can confirm that we've got two drivers out of the race, and it's Gary Ho and Kevin Verbruggen, who are both out and in trouble. So that puts them as retirees, as there's one non-starter here today in the form of Jem Matzan, but that's big. And also Roberto Pangrazzi, I think, is just run into some troubles as well. Togo Hesada stuck on that outside line again, can't quite get what's wanted.
I'm just trying to kind of get a grip on how they're racing up here. I think that these front three that we're really watching are trying to pull it away from that number 6 of Leo Sequeira. I know Hesada's on the outside, but he's not going to try to make a pass here. He's going to have to try to put the power down, and he's just not going to get the launch to go over-under on Nieva right there. But look at, they start to gap it out over Leo Sequeira ever that little bit through the infield. Same thing through that Le Mans bus stop section. So if these three can gap it out over that 4th place car, it leaves them amongst themselves to argue at the end.
Right, so let's get an understanding of what those incidents were that just happened, and this is how things went. And both incidents then for Hohen, Verbruggen and Pangrazzi happened at turn 1. At turn 1, it was Verbruggen over the top on lap 2 of Gary Ho. That's what caused the incident then for both of them to be out as they crashed into the pit exit. And then Roberto Pangrazzi on lap 3 had contact behind from Alexandre Tremblay, and because of that, he went straight on into the barriers on that island between turns 1 and turn 7. So that was that incident. Can confirm as well, Thomas Tuber is in the pits right now, and I think his race is all but done with damage as he pulled it off to one side and called it a day, just trying to work out where he found himself in a world of hurt out there, and he might have had himself a lot of damage somewhere on the circuit, which pulled him back into play. Hesada again though, lap 6, trying to get the move done here on Jorge Nieva, and he'll now look to the inside to get it done. So he's now trying to take that low line, and look at the overspeed he's got. He flies on through. No doubt about that pass being done. He made that look easy.
Yeah, but once again was right in the middle of the track in turn number 1. So yes, he made the pass on Nieva easy, but definitely slid out wide at the apex of turn number 1. I was using that kind of as a good data reference point there because Nieva came out of the straightaway about 0.6 behind Tixier and wasn't able to close in at all with the slipstream. And Hesada, he was only about a quarter of a second behind Nieva coming out onto that straightaway, and we saw Togo just be able to breeze right by Nieva. So the slipstream, very powerful, but you do have to be a little bit closer if you want that overtake done before the brake zone.
Oh, yes, you really do. And you talk about the importance of these moves going on right now, Joey. This is an 8-point swing right now in the comparison of whether Nieva can get by Togo Hesada or not. It's the difference between being 2 points ahead in the championship, heading to the Motor City Detroit Belle Isle, or being 6 points back.
Always want to be as close as possible, and preferably you want to be in front, right? You want everybody trying to chase you and close that gap. So I think that between Nieva and Hesada, yeah, Daytona right here could be just kind of, I wouldn't call it a backbreaker, but it could definitely set the stage for the next couple of rounds.
Yeah, and it will be those final 2 rounds which will house everything together here. Lap 7 to 24. There's also been issues out there for Christopher Sissons, who is down in the pits, and his day looks pretty much donezo as well. So he pulled it into the pits of his own accord, I assume with damage somewhere on circuit. In fact, he went straight on at turn 1, so no surprises there. Look at this though, Leo Sequeira trying to make the Oracle work on the outside as he looks around in front at Hesada, and Tixier battling for that race lead. Tixier defending hard down at the International Horseshoe. Now, is this too early, Joey, to be defending that aggressively in this race? You know you've got till lap 24, and I think Tixier here might be thinking about, well, if they're quick enough, they'll run away from me.
I think that Seb knows he's got enough pace that nobody's going to be able to run away from him right now, especially since he's been the one that's kind of managing the race for the last handful of laps here. Now, I do agree with you that maybe it's a little early to be making these moves, but on the same side of things, like if you don't make the moves, you're just not going to know how deep you can take it into turn number 1. You're not going to know how deep you can take it into turn number 3. So maybe it's not actual forceful moves being played, but maybe just a little bit of notes.
Well, just look at what it's done, all this defensive driving. It is bringing within 1 second the top 7 in this race. Nicola Cocchi has got back onto this group, and neither Togo Hesada nor Jorge Nieva was hoping to see that name come up on their black box relative in the bottom right-hand corner of their screens right now. They are wanting to race. They are wanting to get these moves done. And look at Togo. He desperately wants to get up to the top. It's Singapore versus Japan at this moment in time. And right now, Togo Hesada is realizing that he's catching slightly too early on Sebastian Tixier. It's making life very difficult to make the move. And again, backing out Jorge Nieva. Ever the patient driver is looking for a clean-cut opportunity to make the moves work.
But again, it was another data point for Nieva because he had the 2 cars in front of him really stacked up, and you saw Hesada now actually challenging for the lead, got a great drive out of turn number 1, but on the wrong side of the road. Jake, you were making the comment of Tixier going defensive in turn number 3 that last lap. Well, he did the same exact thing this time around, so maybe is just kind of where he wants to place the car, because coming out of turn number 2, you do actually have to hustle the car back over driver's left. Maybe he's just more comfortable in the middle of the road.
Oh, I don't say he was comfortable there. Going into the West Horseshoe, he was so narrow into the corner. He was fighting a bucket of oversteer going into that section. And of course, we're not a million miles away. We're about 2 Ks out here, about a mile from the beach. So it pretty much says that if you want to be going out there, he might as well start wading into the Florida waters and trying to go fishing if he's going to have to deal with that bucket of oversteer at this point. Here goes Togo Hesada now. This time he'll go to the inside, and I think there's not much that Seb Tixier can do. He gets off of the power quickly to allow Hesada the corner as he goes through, and behind, that's Sequeiro who's going to have to go straight on.
Yeah, he almost impacted Jorge Nieva there, and thankfully was able to turn right at the very, very last moment to avoid any sort of contact. So now we see Nieva go to the middle of the racetrack, but I mentioned every time you go up in the lanes on this racetrack through the oval, you're actually taking the longer distance around. As long as you can get the draft to work, sure, that's great, but it can be a little bit tedious at times. Togo Hesada now moving up to the top of the racetrack, trying to take that arcing line into turn 1, leaves the door open, and now he's not going to lose 1, but possibly 2. How's the drive out? Togo's going to argue back.
Oh, he got balked. He got completely balked, and the whole group gets balked. Heading towards turn 3. Ah, Nicola Cocchi takes contact over the top of Colin. And just like that, that's Nicola Cocchi, potentially championship defining for him.
Turn number 2 is the nemesis for that number 2 car today. He's seen it twice on driver's left. Unfortunately, I think this time's going to end up with some damage.
Oh, he's got more than that. He's already pulled it into the pits. He is done. Nicola Cocchi is out at Daytona Beach, and now you start looking at his drop round. Good news for him, it's his second drop round, but he has that score of 11 points only from the Nürburgring. That will pretty much say that for his championship aspirations.
It's so frustrating. I know that he's had a good couple redemption drives, and he had a good one lined up here, and just kind of misjudged that gap just slightly, and unfortunately found himself in that tire wall. As we watch kind of the pairs of 2, it's Tixier and Hesada up front, and then the next pair of 2 is now Nieva and Tolman, since Leo Sequeiro kind of missed that Le Mans chicane last time around. Tolman, remember, he had missed that brake zone very early in the race, so hopefully he doesn't make that same mistake a little bit later.
Well, he'll certainly be looking at that, and of course brake fade is going to be a big key in this race, and how those brakes are going to play. They get hot, and as such you don't get maximum power. Togo Hesada once more moving over to that outside, wanting the race lead away from Sebastian Tixier, knowing that Tixier is not the reason why he's fighting at this moment in time. It's actually Jorge Nieva behind. This is a dog-eat-dog race. It is a case of overtake or be overtaken.
That where I'm seeing the most kind of stumbling here is actually on the upshifts, right? We have these incredibly long brake zones, and so that means they're going down multiple gears. And there's an example right there. Tixier coming out of turn number 2 or 3 there, just missed an upshift, and there goes by Togo Hesada and Nieva.
Yeah, it happened again. Second time it's happened for Sebastian Tixier out of the international horseshoe. And you talk about these missed gear shifts, and they are important because Tixier is someone who embodies driving that car to 100% realism, and that means he's got a Lotus wheel and a H-pattern shifter.
Using just every single one of those pedals, and so if you don't line it up perfectly, and remember, here in the sim world, it's not like we can feel those straight cut gears within that gearbox. So yeah, it's just kind of a, all right, now's the time to shift, and it's still up to Barney over there to say, all right, yep, we're good.
Yep, so he's still clear. Tixier now back in third position, and this might also be a fuel-saving measure as well. Get a couple laps in the pack where you don't have to use full throttle along this long stretch of road and allow Togo Hesada and Jorge Nieva to start thinking. But look at the gap that's being pulled. Here goes Jorge Nieva. He realizes that if he wants to lead at the front of this field, he's got to try and go now against the tenth side, the genius Togo Hesada. He will get that pass done, moves into the race lead. Here goes Connor Tolman, who of course is fighting for that fourth place in the championship with Sebastian Tixier, side by side into the race lead it goes. And again, Togo Hesada does not have confidence on that outside line. He leaves the door open once again, and he grabs the curb, and now he slides through the grass and saves it. What a save!
I think there's only a handful of drivers that can come up with that save and still keep it on the racetrack, let alone in third position. And I'm pretty sure all of them are sitting inside the top three right here. Togo Hesada putting car control on full display today.
Oh, Togo Hesada, he's got a car that is traditionally loose by standard of how he likes that car to work. So if he does get out of shape, he's got a lot of wheel work to get himself back into position, and that's what he was banking on there at that point. A driver who's won 2 of the last 3 races, hasn't finished outside the top 2 in the last 3 races, with a second last time out at Willow Springs. He's looking at Daytona thinking, that could have been my championship right there. He now needs to hustle to get back to Sebastian Tixier, to get back to Jorge Nieva, with Tolman there in the group, and behind him 5th and 6th, Marco Antonio Lopez, who's not really shown much today, and Leo Sequeira, who'll be trying to get back to that group with the pace he's got.
Nieva had a huge mistake there in the bus stop chicane, the Le Mans chicane. Now Togo Hesada, I bet you, is going to go to the lead, and, well, never mind. He actually lifts off. Watch Connor Tolman, this green and yellow car. He's got a head of steam. He's definitely been more on the aggressive side. He's going to keep his foot in it. He's going to go all the way to the top. Seb Tixier is going to box him in, and now Connor's going to back out of it going into turn number 1. I think that's the smart move, as we're all just going to kind of get single file here at exit. I say that as Togo makes a move down to the inside, but he's got nowhere to go with it.
Well, Sebastian Tixier is planting the car everywhere Togo doesn't want it to. And Togo, I think, has been very much kept out of rhythm in this race, and it's very much a case that he can't beat Saber his way forward to this victory. He can't Osu his way over to the top. He's got to just stay calm and know that it's a dance revolution in this race. He has got to be so switched on to this, because it's very jointed, and I would say syncopation is what he's looking for right now. He needs a nice, easy pattern to work with to get himself to the front.
Almost got into the back gearbox of Nieva down there in turn number 5, really late on the brakes. Seb is definitely one of the most aggressive when it comes to that brake pedal pressure. He knows how to manage it quite well, just as long as you don't go impacting that car in front. That's what you need as we play the draft game once again through NASCAR 2.
Yeah, there you can see the Ford DFV Cosworth engine, one of the, if not the most effective engine out there. Tixier through on the inside, but he's late to turn in, or is that Nieva early to turn in? Drive straight back off of this section, and now run for the stripe out there, heading from lap 13 here over towards lap 14. There'll be 11 laps to go when they next cross the line, and Nieva again searching topside twice. In the last 2 seasons, he's been the runner-up overall as far as the championship goes, and he is desperate, absolutely desperate, to break through for his maiden title, as now the door is slightly left ajar, and Togo Hesada will sneak his way forward and get that sorted. Tolman slightly wide as well, and that will bring in some up and under opportunity. Sequeira can't pounce on it, and Nieva trying to fight back, can't get there at the International.
a little bit of confusion there as they were all trying to slip back in line, and they didn't want to give up any track position. Thankfully, there was no contact between any of the cars up front, but what was a fight for 3 cars at the lead has now been 6 cars. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado on the back. Leo Sequeiro's caught up. We've seen Connor Tolman there for the last few laps. So yeah, 6 cars now all fighting for the lead. And a little bit of a technical point, a racer point that I was going to make. Now, in the real world at Daytona, especially with the sports cars, we see the lead car actually migrate to the top of the racetrack because guess what? If you want to pass me, you're going to force to not take the draft and take the shorter distance around. It's a little bit of a mind game that's played quite commonly here at Daytona. I'm surprised we're not seeing it out of the lead group right now.
Well, right now, or yet, is the key. They've got Gary Ho in front of them. It's close on the lap traffic delta, so keep an eye out on Gary having to try and get out of the way of these leaders who once again swarm around. And there's the first real sign of that there, up top from Sebastian Tixier, thinking, you know what, I'm going to go up high. No, I can't do that anymore. And Togo's got to move out now, otherwise he's going to get boxed in. And that's exactly what happens there as Jorge Nieva moves over to the right-hand side of the circuit, gets past one, and now he'll look for another. How about another from Jorge Nieva? He'll just take the one, and now he's got to find a way to shut the door here, but he can't. He's left it open, and as such, Togo has started down the inside. Oh, what a save by Nieva!
Nieva thankfully kept it off of the concrete wall on driver's left. He loses 1 position. I think that's only going to be it as you see Sequeiro trying to go around the outside, but holy smokes, we saw Togo Asada almost lose it on driver's right. The same exact thing happened to Jorge Nieva, except it spun driver's left on him.
Wow, that could have been race ending for Jorge Nieva. He was pixels away from disaster in this race. He's lost the place to Connor Tolman, but crucially, he keeps his opportunities alive with Sequeiro and Marco Antonio Lopez behind. Just keep an eye out on what's happening on a little bit down in the field. Jason Clapper is up to 7th now as he's made the moves, and you've got a wonderful scrap going on right now around Robert Plumley as things stand. This is the battle we've got. Plumley there in 12th. You've then got Matthew Maudsley, in 14th. And Michael Grissinger trying to get through. In fact, Hannah Fechner has gone through on this lap, so she's jumped up now into 12th position, but some wonderful battling in and around the mid-pack as well.
Yeah, Fechner there in that green car that just slid off of the screen, and then there's that battle that you were just talking about. A couple good battles there later in the pack as our leaders are just relentless up front here. I was also going to make the technical point that we typically don't see open wheel cars here at Daytona, and the lap times that these cars from the late 60s, early 70s are doing are equivalent to modern GT3 cars, 1 low 40s around this place.
Well, that was quite interesting. I heard over the radio there, it was push from Seb Tixier to Togo Hasada. Push. We need to go. We need to break a 2.5 seconds. But you can see the reason why, because they came out there of the Le Mans chicane, Joey. It was 1 second. By the time that the move had been made by Hasada on Tixier, the gap between Tixier and Tolman was down to 8/10. They can't afford to keep that gap there. They've got to break it in this infield section.
I don't think it's going to be possible with Nieva's pace, especially even with Tolman's pace. So I think if you're Connor Tolman right here, just make sure to turn off your mirror, hit your brake marker in turn number 6, because the exit is the most important exit of the race. As long as you can stay within the slipstream range, that means you're going to pull along Nieva behind you. As long as Leo Sequeiro, Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado, they're all going to feel that slipstream. And he's right there at about 1.2 seconds back. But remember, it's not just this straightaway we've got. We've got the huge, long front straightaway right after the chicane as well.
Yeah, and Connor Tolman's down a couple tenths of a second here, so this is pretty huge in terms of the context of this race. If Jorge Nieva gets stuck in this part of the circuit in 4th position with Tolman unable to chase this group, he'll be playing damage limitation. He'll only be fighting for 3rd, and these drivers in front, they'll be picking up a tiny bit of tow as well from Gary Ho. So that's the issue that they've got. Togo and Seb have the same rules to play with as everybody else does. They are trying to make this race as easy as possible for them. They don't want to be worrying about 5 or 6 drivers behind them right now here, Joey. They want to be worrying about 1v1.
think Leo Seguero just slipped up that little bit. No, I'm sorry, that was Seb Tixier at the front. I was looking at the wrong car, so little bit of a mistake there in turn number 1, trying to get the car slowed all the way down. And so, yeah, it got the message that you got to get going, but then overshot turn number 1. What was a 1.2-second lead has now shrunk down to 3/4 of a second. So all that work for that last lap and a half, Jay, is out the window.
Yeah, it was Togo Hesada sliding through turn 1 with that traditionally loose setup that he's got, and again, it brings the group closer together, but Tolman is not as quick through this section of road, and Jorge Nieva, I think, knows it, and he's got to find a way through. Gary Ho, way off on the right-hand side of the circuit, left-hand side of screen, gets well out of the way, and I think Seb Tixier gives a thank you as he goes by, because that was a case of, you've given me a lot of help, and I can say I've really enjoyed the work that's been done to pull all of this together. But Tixier here is thinking about, how do I get this victory and how do I jump forward? He's got no drop rounds in the back pocket, and he's thinking, well, if I can get this one on Connor Tolman and I can get this one with Nicola Cocchi out of the race here today, there is a good chance that Seb Tixier is fighting for third in the championship, and that's his big thought.
Connor Tolman just had the corner exit of his life. He went in. Oh no! Jorge Nieva stopped on the racetrack on driver's left below the apron. I can only assume it was hard contact driver's right. Sometimes through the chicane, you can get a little bit loose in the middle and trying to put the throttle down. You can hook it driver's right, and so unfortunate.
He caught a tank. The tank slapped Jorge Nieva. It's decisive in this championship effort. It will mean that he will only take a maximum of 30 championship points today. That's the result he got at Oran Park only 2 weeks ago. And Jorge Nieva, now is that the moment that gives Togo Hesada supremacy in this race. He's just lost the race lead, though, over to Sebastian Tixier, and Togo's just got to keep it on an island because his main championship rival and the driver in third position, the only other drivers that could find themselves a way through today, both have crashed out of this race at Daytona Beach, Florida.
The points championship has certainly took a tumble, and lots of things are going to be shaken up. Now, this is the fight here for what is 8th place. Bjorn Ackerman is that lead multicolored car. The number 12, the red car, David Rossi. Then we also have Kurt Clapper as kind of that MGD colored car right behind. And like I said, this is all inside the top 10, a little bit behind Shinsuke Toshima up front, but going through turn number 6, one of the most important corner exits on the racetrack, and actually all 3 of them get the power down quite nicely, so it's going to be back up front we go.
Yeah, to the top 3, Tixier, Hesada, and Connor Tolman in the number 13 machine. Now, Tolman has not had a victory yet this season. The best that he has managed is a 3rd place finish at the Nürburgring. He wants a little bit more than that here at Daytona. On the brakes they go, in through the first corners out on circuit with 6 laps left. Here's a question for you, Joey. Where do you want to be on the last lap? P1, P2, or P3 in this group?
That's a tough one. I think that I would like to be P2, whether that's Tixier or Hesada. I think that they're going to play the game to try to time the draft right to the line. Now, if Connor Tolman can kind of sit back and wait, and if that timing is misjudged, it might provide an opportunity for that number 13. But I think if you're Connor Tolman, this is your biggest and best opportunity to go up there and prove yourself. Don't kick your foot in the door. Sit there, let them know your name, and if an opportunity arises, be safe, but capitalize if you can.
Well, this is all about championship points, and Connor Tolman can move up quite handsomely with this. He's currently clear by 2 points over Sebastian Tixier in the championship. A non-finish here today for Nicola Cocchi means that he'll only take a maximum of 11 points out of today, which will put him, when all drops are calculated, onto 375 points. You don't need to be a mathematician to know there's 60 points out there today for a race victory. So if either of those 2 drivers can pick up a victory, Tixier or Tolman, they will move to 3rd place in the championship, Joey.
We've got Leo Seguero hunting down what is 4th place. Remember, these two cars were actually part of the lead group, but between the Ava crash and just some scrapping up front, they've kind of got separated by about 4 seconds from this trio of Tixier, Hesada, and Tolman. Oh my goodness. Both lead cars going way wide in turn number 1, and Connor Tolman up to 2nd.
Connor Tolman could have had an almighty run through, but he caught the grass off the exit, had to catch the car, and instead of him being in the lead against Tixier, he's 2nd, and now he's going to go at it and try and find his way through. Togo Hesada's got to think about what he wants here. 60 points would be nice, but so too is 51 championship points. He's got to think Alain Prost style in this race. Just what can he get, and not necessarily going for eyes bigger than the belly, the race win overall, because he's got a championship to think about where these two drivers in front don't.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think that when we look at the group, look at the loose, just the loose nature of the car. Togo is so comfortable, but I was going to say Tixier and Hesada, they're old buddies, right? They know how to race each other. Connor Tolman, sure, he's been around this season, but I really feel like we're going to see two bullies kind of picking on the new kid out here, because remember, we don't know how Connor races with these guys. We know Togo is incredibly aggressive. We know Tixier is so aggressive in those brake zones, so I have a feeling these two are probably going to kind of team up on Connor.
Well, Connor's got to keep his eyes very much peeled in this race, knowing that everyone's going to be looking around and the questions will be asked. Can you find a way forward to this race leading position? Big block down onto the inside. Connor Tolman went low and the block was thrown by Tixier.
That's what I'm talking about right there. These guys, they know how to race at the front. They know exactly what they're going to do, and so it's time to teach the new kid how to join the ranks. And guess what? It's all part of coming up here and getting your name known, and that's what Connor Tolman's doing. Remember, podium at the Nürburgring. He's shown flashes of brilliance throughout the year, but this is the opportunity to go up there and really let these guys know who you are.
Well, who you are, what can you do? Bjorn Ackermann is missing a front tyre out there on circuit. He caught Kurt Clapper in the wrong place. He's gone over the top into the barriers outside the Le Mans chicane, and you can see him now diving into the pits, missing a front right. His race is over.
Well, unfortunate. Go get a chicken sandwich from the infield and watch how this one is going to play out, because I have a feeling we're going to see fireworks all the way towards the end of the race. I think that the weak point for Connor Tolman is definitely the infield section, turns of number 1 through 6. He gets through the Le Mans chicane okay, but the infield, I feel like, is where his kind of slowest point is.
They've got a big battle in front of them. It's Jordi Oliva Figueira and Alexandre Tremblay, who is 6 laps down, who are both there together, so the traffic's got to behave here in front of this group. It will give Tixier on this lap something to latch onto, but he goes high through because he doesn't want to catch them immediately. This is big in terms of the run, and now for Connor Tolman, does he decide now that with 3 laps to go when they cross the line is the time? Jumping off the power, they're down on the inside line. Jordi Figueira wants nothing to do with it. Question is going to be asked whether there's going to be something to do for Alexandre Tremblay, who goes straight on at the opening corner, has to abandon the ship, and Sébastien Tixier does not have to worry, but they've still got more traffic in front. It'll be Gerard Boldu next who will be chasing the number 14 driver, the Iberian, I would say the Spaniard in front. Contact! Tixier turned around, so too Tolman, and straight through to the race lead goes Togo Hesada.
I was worried about right there. Connor Tolman just getting a little bit too aggressive down into that turn number 3 hairpin, made contact with the right rear of Seb Tixier. The only good news is that they're still running 1, 2, 3 on the racetrack with Hesada out front, Tolman second, Tixier in third, so it still might not be over.
It's 1.3 seconds at the moment, and Togo Hesada has maybe just been given the chance to run away here. This is all about this section of road, jumping onto the banking through NASCAR 1 and 2, and then realizing what can you do to chase it down. How much unalignment is there for Connor Tolman and his front tire? That is going to be the most telling factor in this race to whether he can chase this down or not. 1.2, diving in towards the chicane. He's still got a chance in this race yet.
I went on and looked on board. All three drivers have a straight steering wheel, identical from what I could see on that angle, so it really will be up to the performance. Can they go claw back that time to Togo Asada? I'm looking, and yes, the draft is already in effect. 1.2, now 1.0, now under 1 second between first and second.
Draft doesn't just work in front, it works behind as well. And I think what's key is the driver in fourth position, Joey, in this group, Leo Sequeiro, is back in this battle. And Marco Antonio Lopez is desperate to get there as well, because these drivers now can work together to claw back Togo Hasada already down to 3/4 of a second into the International.
Remember what I said about Hasada and Tixier going to kind of pick on Connor Tolman? Well, how do you feel Seb Tixier is right now after getting that little bit of contact from the new kid? I'm sure that he's going to want to go up there and make some huge aggressive moves, including into turn number 5 right there. Gets the car slowed down, but I think that was a little bit of flex of the muscle. And here comes a huge launch coming out of that hairpin. I think that Tolman kind of gave him that second place position.
Tolman missed a gear. There's no other way to describe it there. He got a little bit scared by that, missed a gear, and just like that, through goes Tixier. And look at what it's cost them now, because again, that gap's 1.3. If Tolman had kept the power down, they could have fought for the victory, but now it's up to Tixier to do the donkey work.
I don't think it's over. We'll watch Togo Hasada. I've got my eye on him through the chicane here. Actually looks very tidy. Slips up on the third apex just a touch, and now Tixier is actually starting to lose a little bit of ground to Togo Hasada. He didn't get the exit that he needed to.
Tempers have flared, and because of Tixier and Tolman's contact, they're thinking about each other rather than what's in front, and Leo Sequeiro knows it, and he might want to get himself involved. 1 lap to go here at Daytona Beach, Florida, and right now at the world center of racing, I'll say it's the world center of sim racing right now, it is Tixier and Tolman and Leo Sequeiro once in on the action. Now heading towards turns 2 and 3, half a second wiped in that opening corner. There is half a chance yet, but Togo Hasada is struggling through the infield, and Sebastian Tixier has almost cut the gap in half here heading towards turn 4 out on track. This is magical. The Singapore driver who originates from France, Sebastian Tixier, is slicing that gap down. He is not taking a little bit here, a little bit there. It's coming off in chunks. It's coming off in loads at this moment. And you look at Sebastian Tixier. Connor Tolman looks behind. He's going to be playing for the final spot on the podium here with Leo Sequeiro. This has been a magical infield, and Tixier has a chance. And surely now it's got to be about perfection, because that run out of Le Mans is going to be tantamount to how this race is going to play out. Half a second, the gap claws down to on the brakes. Togo, how is your metal going through the right and the left? Tixier now needs a drive, and he gets it, but what a chicane by Togo Hasada. It's 0.6 of a second, and now it's about Tixier. Can he close this gap down? Still at 0.6. He needs a bit more help. He resigns himself on the radio to defeat. He says he's going to be out of time, and he will be out of time, because Togo Hasada has done it here, holds off the charge, and wins at Daytona.
Wow. I did not see Togo running away in the last few laps. Seb Tixier does recover to finish second after being spun around just a few laps ago, and Connor Tolman gets his second podium of the year, as we're going to watch rest of the cars come around and take the checkered flag, including Shinsuke Tashima finishing there in 7th. Another big one that we didn't talk about too much, finishing in 6th was Jason Clapper, our biggest mover, up 21 positions. Kurt is going to finish inside of the top 10 as well.
Yeah, Kurt Clapper, big result for him today. He picks up points in the F2 Championship standings, knowing that Jonathan Jourdain's 13th place finish here today is enough for him to now claw on forward in that regard. Let's get confirmation of results then here from the Daytona International Speedway. And my, did it produce a thriller once again, running away with a couple laps to go. And look at that for Togo Hisada, the 0.3 of a second lost by Tolman to Tixier, letting him through with a lap and a bit to go. That is the difference over the line. 0.3 of a second. Connor Tolman takes the last spot on the podium for his second podium of the season as Leo Sequeiro finishes fourth and Marco Antonio Lopez. What a great drive by him today there in P5. Jason Clapper from the back of the field worked his way up forward to 6th place, but you felt that if he found some draft, he could have been right up there at the front with Shunsuke Toshima 7th and David Rossi in 8th place. Rossi would beat Kurt Clapper to the line in 9th. It was a great battle for 10th, which was won out by Robert Plumley.
Then in 11th place is Hannah Fechner there in that number 10 car. Michael Grissinger finishing in 12th with Jonathan Jourdain in 13th. Alan Graham 14th. David Muse in 15th with Thomas Willershausen in 16th. Jordi Oliva Figuera, the first car, 1 lap down in 17th. And then comes the cars that had problems today. Remember, we saw Bjorn Ackerman missing one of the front corners on his car, finishing 18th. Gerard Baldu, 19th. Gary Ho in 20th. And then, unfortunately, everybody else, multiple laps down. I think Tobias Harnvey here in 21st was actually the last car to see the checkered flag. Everybody else did not finish today's race.
22nd and 26th were the two drivers to keep in mind, because it is going to be all about what happened for Jorge Nieva, his tank slapper that cost him the race. And then over the top of Connor Tolman went Nicola Cocchi. Those two drivers not getting a finish that they needed at Daytona here today is the sole reason why they will now be almost out of reach of Togo Hisada and the desperateness that was there to try and get things sorted. We're going to have a chance to talk to some of our drivers. We will start with the driver who finished off 3rd position here today, Connor Tolman, here with us right now. Connor, biggest talking point is that you are in both big issues out there here today. First and foremost, we want to talk about what happened between you and Nicola Cocchi going over the back of your rear left wheel. What happened?
Oh, man. Cocky, I guess I was just too focused on the 3 cars ahead of me and just making sure that I wasn't going to run into the back of anybody. And in all of that, I failed to pay attention to Cocky up on my left side. I had no idea he was there, and until I saw I actually didn't even feel any contact. But then I saw 4X, and I hoped everything was okay, but I didn't see, and I haven't gone back at the replay yet to see. So if it was my fault, I do apologize to Cocky. Definitely not intentional. Just forgot where I was on the track.
Well, it seems like that area of the circuit was a melting pot here today for you, because, of course, you were brought into that battle with Sebastian Tixier and Togo Hisada out there for the victory. So talk us through, A, the contact that you had with Sebastian Tixier down there at turn 3, and then, secondly, the decision to let him go heading over towards turn 6 with 2 laps to go.
So the contact with Tixier, I just... I missed my blip. I have a sequential shifter, and I do, left foot braking, right foot gas, and I blip on my downshifts, and I just missed my blip slightly, and it kind of chattered and locked the rears. And I think I panicked a little bit, locked him up further, target fixation, ran into Seb. And then obviously I was going to let him by. I'm not going to hit somebody and, leave him hanging. I was coming out of that corner, the second to last corner before the oval, and I had made a small mistake, and I was like, what, here's time as good as any. Let him by here and just get out of the way and, give him his rightful spot, because I definitely potentially cost him a win today.
Well, for you, it's your second podium of the season. It's been a wonderful season for you by standards, knowing that you're there, you're fighting for 3rd now in the championship with the likes of Sebastian Tixier and Nicola Cocchi. You move on forward. It's Belle Isle next week, a completely different challenge to Daytona. How are you feeling about it?
I'm excited. I think Belle Isle's a great track. It's definitely a bit more punishing than this track. I think Belle Isle was one of the first cars. I used to race the Skip Barber car, and Belle Isle was one of the first tracks that I really got into the flow with the Skip Barber car, and just I'm hoping that I can carry that same energy with the much more powerful, much more wider tire Skippy.
Well, the floor is yours, Connor. It's a third place finish here today at Daytona. Who would you like to thank?
Myself, man. I woke up 11 minutes. I missed my alarm 11 minutes before qualifying. Woke up, got my breakfast in and immediately sat on the sim. Got 3 laps of practice before qualifying, and I just got to honestly congratulate myself because it was a really, really stressful morning, and I pulled it together and I ended up with a really good finish, even if I did make a few pretty large mistakes during the course of the race.
Well, there you have it. Connor Tolman picking up a second podium this season. It's a third place since the one at the Nürburgring. Second position overall went to Sebastian Tixier. Joey Atterbury has caught up with him.
Well, has the Raging Bull gotten all of the steam out of the nostrils yet? Are you doing okay over there, Seb? Uh-oh, looks like we're still getting him working. Seb, we got you on audio? Looks like he's working. There we go. Now we got you. I was just about to ask you, Mr. Tixier, if the Raging Bull has gotten all the steam out of the nostrils yet. You calm down over there? I think we're still working on some...
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. How are you doing now? You calmed down after that one, finishing second?
It was a crazy race. I knew there would be a lot of mistakes in turn 1 because when I was doing some tests last Sunday on the hosted session, I couldn't get a proper braking marker for T1 because the front tires are different temperature every laps. And yeah, so a lot of crazy pass. No, it was a lot of fun, and kudos and respect to Connor to redress after his. So I heard that he had a mischief and it looked like a dive to me. So I tried to let some space, but even with that, I got some contact. So I was quite gutted about it. So yeah, thanks to him to redress.
Talk to me about racing with the new guy up front, right? You always race with Togo and all of these other familiar names, Nieva up front, but what is it like when you come to a race here and somebody like that, a name that you're not 100% familiar with, is up there racing you at the front? Do you race them differently or do you just do the same stuff?
No, same stuff. Actually, it's more depend of who I killed the race before. So because I made some mistakes too, and for example, I know that it was last season I killed Jorge 2 times. So when I was battling with Jorge after that, I was more careful because of the netcode. But otherwise, no, I respect everybody the same way. So that means that I give my 100% with everybody.
And honestly, Seb, I think that's one of the things that I like about you is that you're always so laid back out there. You're a fierce competitor and you want to win, but you can also separate life from what we're doing out here. So congrats on being able to do that. And my last question for you, the last couple rounds, are you going to be out here racing with us?
From France, so now I can race. I have some personal issues, so I'm not practicing as much, but I'm able to race. So I'm really happy about that, to join the community every week. It's like my sunshine every week, and I will miss those guys too much. So yeah, I will join, not 100%, but for sure I will give my best.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming out here and racing when you can. It's always a pleasure to watch you.
Thank you.
That was Seb Tixier coming home second today after an action-filled race.
Well, speaking of action-filled races, Togo Hisada joins us right now. Togo, Tensai Doraibu, Togo no Tensai Tekina Doraibu. Kyo, Omana Raibaru ga futari tobo retire, shite shimai mashita ga taitoru, wa anata no mono to onaji kurai yoi desu ka?
Yes. First of all, I'm very surprised to, the Jorge was here today because I think he's on the trip, so it's something, he's doing something, and somehow he's joined the race, and he's pretty fast this today as well, so that's pretty surprised, but today's its track is very hot, and the not the ice, very greasy conditions, and so the very easy to spin or mistake today. So just I'm sorry to hear about Jorge's retirement and Nicola as well, but just somehow I take the first place, so just concentrating into the next 2 weeks, and have to take the championship.
Well, you're happy to get there. For those who are not as fluent in Japanese, it's a genius drive from a genius driver. Togo, with both your main rivals retiring today, is the title as good as yours. But let's talk about that race, because it looked like the contact between Connor Tolman and Sebastian Tixier today opened up the door for you. You were very much happy there in that third position, but you were then given the opportunity at 1 second to brake, and that gap just stayed there for the rest of the race. How important was that for you, just to keep those final 3 laps as dialed in as you possibly could?
Yeah, Lotus 49 has a surprisingly big drag, a pretty hard, tremendous drag. So the streaming range is pretty large. I think just 1.8 seconds or 1.9 seconds is just finally cut it off the draft range. So it's very difficult to do in the racetrack. Actually, me and the Sebastian trying to the swamp drafting, middle of the race, but didn't work correctly. So just really lucky to be the other guys have issues, and just last 2 laps it's been really dangerous. But today is not for me today. So I'm just really lucky.
Well, luck is made in these races, and I think you create your own luck. You've been absolutely fantastic this season. It's your 3rd win in the last 4 rounds, with victories at Zandvoort and Oran Park, and here now at Daytona, a 2nd at Willow Springs. So for you, when you've been on it, you've been absolutely on it. It's Detroit Belle Isle next week. How do you feel about the city streets?
Yeah, I like this. I like Detroit. I like that track. So yeah, just fun. Have a fun, and I sometimes Big Leno or Copy or they're street lovers. show up sometimes. So maybe that will be really difficult, but just trying to take a higher position, and have to take enough point.
Well, the floor is yours, Togo. It's a decisive victory for you today here around this Daytona International Speedway. Anybody you'd like to thank?
My family, my friends, and the Lotus 49 community.
Well, there you have it. Togo Hisada, the Tensai of the Lotus 49s, getting the job done with an all-important win, and it is the sort of victory that will move him now to 32 points clear, up at the top of the standings. He will have a massive smile from ear to ear heading to the Motor City Detroit Belle Isle Championship. By no means over and done with, but it is advantage Togo as things stand. Want to give a massive thanks to the entire crew who's helped get this show over to you today, from Joey, from Christian, and from Dougie as well. You can catch all of the amazing equipment coming up on your screen, which has helped bring this show to you, and that includes the music that you've heard today from June Lalonde. You can catch her stuff on Bandcamp if you haven't had the chance to yet. But this is a championship that continues to bring itself closer and closer and closer, and you cannot switch off to anything that's going on right now on the Global Sim Racing channel. Across your screen will be some of our events which are coming up forward. Mark them down in the calendar if you haven't already, including at what will be 2 hours and 20 minutes from now. The Camel IMSA Vintage Series is going to be jumping through. You definitely want to join in and see that. You can catch us on our social medias on the bottom of the screen, along with our website and our merch store for your 0.2 of a second's advantage. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, one hand for Togo Hisada. He knows that all he has to do is keep the finishes coming along, but Jorge Nieva will be battling back, will be throwing what he can at the wall, will be hoping that it all sticks together. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We will see you at the Motor City.
Yeah.